Hello, YouTube. It's been about 2 years now that I've been over at patreon.com/Bickford, and that is a website that now features HD 4K video streaming content. So I'm uploading exclusive content there that new patrons can find right at the top of the page in the Patrons Links Hub, where there's essays, downloadable goodies, exclusive video and audio content, and much more. I'll be expanding the type of media and formats that I put out on a regular basis. And I could use your support. You should go over to patreon.com/Bickford. Help support this content, grow this page, and help me keep this platform sustainable. Now, here's an exclusive Q&A video excerpt. Someone had a rather controversial question, and sometimes I like to test drive the answers to those questions over on Patreon. And so you'll often find these discussions happening there. If they ever make it to YouTube, they make it there later. So I'll be doing these on a regular basis, and I will occasionally give you guys little snippets and previews of those. But if you want more exclusive content and you want to help be a part of supporting the page, check out patreon.com/Bickford. Thanks. I've got a controversial question. I've noticed many dissident right-wingers and pagan types online reject Christianity as a Jewish and therefore nefarious invention which enslaved the Goyim. That's the Judeans term for everyone who's not Judean or Jewish. Via Metatronic logos. I'm less familiar with how that works or those ideas, but I believe I'd probably just use different language. So we're enslaving the Goyim to power structures that eventually laid the groundwork for a new world order, and its emergent interfaith that is subverting and replacing Christianity in turn. I do not ultimately endorse this view, too much mistrust and fear, but I wonder if you could speak to this. Is there any credibility at all to Christianity being a manufactured tool of Judaism? And Christ repudiates the Old Testament God, so how can this be of benefit to Old Testament worshipers? That's a good question. Is it a controlled dialectic? To a degree, and to what extent is the church responsible for a new world order? I feel like you can bring a healthier perspective to this. So yeah, when I see talk in the truther community or the conservative and alt-right that really takes a hard line towards something not being okay because it's associated with things that are Jewish, I tend to pull back because some of that sounds like dog whistle bigotry and kind of like lowbrow stuff. And it's a really good way to muddy the waters if you're making what I like to call the bullshit sandwich on truth bread, right? Shit sandwich on truth bread. So there's a little bit of truth to something, but it's presented with some bullshit. And so all you can smell is bigotry or hatred, and any useful information is now kind of tainted with that. And if you try to bring it up in conversation, it gets difficult. Like what I'm going to try to do again with the word Semite and anti-Semite. I'll try to talk about how we need to be concerned about racism and bigotry, but anti-Semite is really a term that can only be honestly applied by people who are hardcore Old Testament fundamentalists. The liberals who throw that word around really don't know what it means. And that, in my mind, I'm thinking now of the
Inconceivable! You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
So Isaac, I don't ultimately endorse this view, but let's say this. Let's look at the big picture. Is the story in the Old Testament seems to be a people that identified themselves as Jews or Judeans, were an ethnic tribe that considered themselves to be a separate race of people, and they followed a polytheistic pagan religion that was gradually, it seems like not everybody wakes up at the same time. It seems like some spiritually wise and enlightened people embedded within the Jewish community had some wisdom and were slowly waking up out of this polytheistic pagan practice of worshiping disembodied spirits that they would give material sacrifices to. And it's almost like it reminds me of the time that I was fucking with my little brother on his 5th birthday. I've got a little brother that's 10 years my junior. So I'm a sophomore in high school, and I got my little brother these Walkie Talkies for his birthday, for his 5th birthday. And my friend was over, and we were screwing around with my brother. And he one of his other birthday presents was this little plastic miniature golf club set for playing miniature golf in the backyard. So I put a walkie-talkie under his pillow, and then I sent him up to his room. I was like, Nathan, there's something in your room. There's someone calling your name. And it sent him in there, freaked him out, told him I was a troll that lived under his bed, and that I needed him to go on a mission to liberate the trolls that were stuck inside of Dad's new TV. And what he needed to do was get his new plastic golf clubs and go beat the hell out of Dad's new television with them in order to bust it open to liberate the trolls that were trapped inside of it. And man, that kid was a trooper. He fucking did it. Basically, the deal was that the troll was going to torment everyone in the house and it was going to be a problem for everybody if Nathan didn't take one for the team and grab his plastic 9-iron and whack the shit out of Dad's television. Back then, the big TV, I think, was like a cathode ray tube, fat 27-inch. It's probably as deep as it is wide. It's just a big brick of plastic and glass with fake wood paneling on it. Nathan goes in there and starts whacking the shit out of it. Me and my friend are down the hall laughing our asses off with a walkie-talkie. My mother comes up the stairs. She knows immediately I'm behind everything that's going on, and it's all my fault. So we explain, and eventually everybody had a laugh. I knew that the plastic golf clubs would not be able to damage the television. Nathan's 5-year-old strength and the lightweight plastic golf clubs weren't gonna do any damage. It was pretty fucking funny though. Anyway, that's how I kind of think of the monolatrist and polytheistic pagans in the early days, right? It's like there's a walkie-talkie behind the golden bull, like, let's go put the babies on the fire. And they're like, fuck, we got to do it, man. I want that crop to come in next year. That shit is insane. And the people started waking up from that and started moving into a monolatrist paganism where they're like, all right, some of these gods are not okay. Do not talk to El anymore. Do not talk to Baal. Don't do anything with a golden bull. So the monolatry acknowledged other gods, but only worshipped the one Yahweh. But then there's some confusion amongst Jewish scholars too about how
is there a point to this?
You and your board are idolaters. You rest comfortably in seats of inscrutable power, hiding behind your false idol, far from judgment, lives shrouded in secrecy, even from one another, but not from God.
There seems to be like a committee of lesser gods, or you could just say, oh well, they're angels, and then Christians will be like, oh, those aren't gods, those are angels and demons, and then there you go. There's only one God. So some of it's an actual just a misunderstanding because of semantics of what the lower gods are. Like, oh, if you want to call them angels and demons, we can have that conversation, and then you can go back to the monotheism if you want. But it looks like the polytheistic Jews became monolatrist Jews, but they were just they kind of changed the name of their gods, and they just seem to be remixes of the same committee of disembodied spirits.
I don't want you to sign it, man. I want the guy that draws Blunt Man Chronic to sign it. We're just a tracer. Tell him, little shaver.
So that idea of Yahweh's Elohim council And like there's angels and then there's not so nice angels and they come down here and mess with people. Well, maybe the story in Genesis 6 isn't about angels having sex. Maybe the angels entering into human beings is maybe like possessing people. And then those people make bad decisions and they reproduce unhealthy families that have dysfunction. And that is useful to people that want to sow chaos in order to bring about a new order. And you bring about the question of the new order. Absolutely, in early Christianity, the church was the military, was the state. You know, nowadays you got like financial centers in New York and London and the Vatican and Rome, and then you've got, or in its own city, and then you've got a military industrial complex maybe, you know, and it's got offices in Denver and the Pentagon and other places. To what degree those things are integrated, I think, you know, we know there's roundtable groups. We know that elite groups from different government agencies and the UN get together and make important decisions about social engineering, and they don't necessarily hide all of that. So the term social engineering and similar ideas about engineering culture and moving it into a new direction and the great resets and things like that, it's kind of that stuff used to be associated with Alex Jones, but now you'll hear Rachel Maddow talking about government intelligence disinformation campaigns. It's just that the evil Russians do it. Not, America would never do that. But then you can watch documentaries about America, importing Nazis into government agencies and, using psychedelics on people unknowingly, as well as other campaigns to make and target certain groups of people unwell. So that stuff does happen, but at the same time, the exaggerated version of it gets that shit sandwich on truth bread effect. And so to what degree it's true and to what degree it's bullshit is cloudy, and the bullshit's often gets a whiff of some kind of racism or bigotry. And so people feel like it's too controversial to go there and without, stepping on someone's toes or saying something that could be misconstrued as being, in favor of a racist or bigoted paradigm. My understanding in the symbolism nowadays is that the Jews are the nerds, that Jews are the smart people. Like it seems like just Eastern European white people run Israel, but they're ethnically from a group called the Ashkenazi. And the Ashkenazi are known as being a tribe of humanity that converted to Judaism. So they're not, say, a part of groups like the Sephardic Jews who are ethnically Jewish, and they don't practice a strict Judaism like, say, the Hasidic Jews, the guys in Brooklyn with the long temple locks and the black hats in the summertime. They're in it to win it. They got their eyes on the prize, I guess. Those guys are actually practicing Judaism. But in Israel, it's the most atheist nation in the Middle East, one of the most atheist nations in the world, and the Ashkenazi Jews that have run and have been prime minister of Israel are people that don't observe Jewish traditions, like Netanyahu, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy who eats at non-kosher restaurants. There really isn't anything Jewish about him except by declaration, and the ethnicity link is not there. So it's difficult to say what's really going on there, other than people who look rather Slavic run a country that's predominantly white and atheist in the Middle East, and they're waging an apartheid war against the Palestinian people. And ethnically, the Palestinian people might have more of an argument to this claim of ethnicity as Semites than the Ashkenazi Jews, who converted to a religion that they don't even practice anymore. So it's difficult to talk about that, but an atheist nation that isn't ethnically Jewish, it's not run by people who are either ethnically Jewish or practicing Judaism, and they're openly waging an ethnic cleansing campaign against a group of brown people. So you would think that liberals in the West would have more to say about it.